What is going on, guys? Gavin here, and today I want to go over some gameplay for my blind second Despia deck. I feel like this deck has a very solid matchup across the board in the meta, with probably the only exception being Flundereeze. That's just such an annoying anti-meta deck, but let's be real here. Who actually enjoys playing against Flundereeze? Um, you know, it is what it is. Hopefully that deck gets hit on the ban list, but yeah, otherwise this deck is very solid. I highly recommend giving it a try, and yeah, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into a quick little deck profile here, and then get into the gameplay. Okay, to start for the deck profile, we are playing my standard Despia ratio of triple copies of Aliber, triple copies of Tragedy, and one copy of Adlib, and one copy of Dramaturge. For the Albaz monsters, we are playing triple copies of Albaz himself, one copy of Incredible Ecclesia, one copy of Blazing Cartesia, one copy of Tribrigade Mercarier, and one copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. For the Beastial monsters, we are playing two copies of Beastial Lubellion. I did drop this down from 3 to 2 just because I don't feel like the third one was super necessary, and now you budget players can be a little bit happier that I think that the third one is a little unnecessary and this card's expensive, so just buy two to start if you are going to invest in this card. Then we play two copies of Druidworm, triple copies of Magnuma, the best one, and then two copies of Serenir. Serenir is actually a lot better in this deck than it is in other decks, just because you do benefit off of sending Branded Spell and Traps to the graveyard or sending the Lubellion as well. So really, really solid there. One copy of the Branded Regain and one Branded Beast. Branded Regain is actually insane. I don't mind drawing this card a lot of the times because, especially if you draw it with a card like Allure of Darkness, it gets you another plus on top of like your Allure of Darkness, which is absolutely insane. And the sooner that you can get this card online, the sooner you can drown your opponent out in card advantage. So really, really love this card. And then Branded Beast is actually probably the worst card to draw in the deck, in my opinion, just because you'd rather just set it up immediately with Lubellion. But yeah, really, really solid engine there. And then for the branded spells and traps, we are playing triple copies of Opening, triple copies of Branded Fusion, two copies of Branded in Red, one copy of the Theater, and then one copy of the Branded Retribution. I swapped this out with Branded Sword. Branded Sword is okay. It allows you to recycle the Mercarier, but Branded Condonate or Branded Retribution allows you to grab back branded spell and traps from your graveyard to your hand, which is really, really nice. Yes, it doesn't play as well into the Ishizu cards, but it's still okay to play, I think. Definitely going to give it a try and might go back to Branded Sword in the future, but this card's pretty cool as well. And then triple copies of Allure of Darkness, triple copies of Talents, one copy of Gold Sark, one Foolish, triple Droplet, triple Super Poly. So that is it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we are playing the one Guardian Chimera, the two Mirror Jade, one Starving Venom, one Dragostapelia, two Lubellion, one Albelenidus, one Queritus, two Masquerade, one Brigand the Glory Dragon, two Albion, and the one Garura. And for the side deck, put in triple copies of Dark Ruler No More, one Called by the Grave, one Branded Lost, one Branded Banishment, triple Evenly Matched, triple Eradicator. This card, Eradicator, is very unethical if you resolve it. I don't think I've lost a game when I've resolved this card. It's absolutely nutty. And then triple copies of There Can Be Only One, because it doesn't really hurt our deck very much. So that is it for the deck profile. Let's go ahead and get into some gameplay. Okay, so for this first game, we are going to be playing against Naturia, Beastial, Ishizu, which is a very solid control deck. The Naturia cards are all Earth, so they don't lose to Beastial monsters themselves, and Camella and Mole Cricket are two very insane cards that this deck got access to. So definitely, if you don't know what those cards do, make sure you read them, because you don't want to be caught with your pants down when you're playing against this deck. So our opponent's hand is a little bit awkward here. He has actually two copies of Magnuma and two copies of Mole Cricket, and one copy of the Druid Swarm, so only really one playable card here to start his turn off, but Mole Cricket's really all you need as long as it resolves, and we're not really playing any hand traps, so our opponent's kind of just free to go off. But our hand is also very solid. We have a Magnuma, Talents, Albaz, Tragedy, and the Branded Fusion. So I'm not going to narrate everything that happens in this game because there's a lot that happens, but he's going to do the pretty standard Mole Cricket play: summon out Camella, dump Sacred Tree, grab Blessing, activate Blessing, bring back the Mole Cricket to make the Naturia Beast, and then trigger the Mole Cricket effect in the graveyard. So he has a Floodgate effect of Naturia Beast, a potential summon 2 from deck on my turn, which is very strong, and then 2 Beastials that he can use during my turn. So we are going to draw the Serenir for turn. Our only play here is really to normal summon the Albaz, and we dump the Tragedy for cost, and then there's a little bit of a Beastial war that ensues afterwards. Both players are trying to get their Beastials down on the field. My opponent is the one that ends up getting one onto the field, but honestly, that was really just bait, that whole play. I don't really care if I get a Beastial on the field. That's the nice thing about the Beastials, like, they apply so much pressure because so long as they're not negated and destroyed, they stay in your hand and you can just use them next turn. So, it's kind of a value loss when you try and stop the Beastials. Just saying. Uh, they're really, really strong cards. I think that any deck that can't make use of the Beastials right now is at a disadvantage. So our opponent here, he brings out the Camella, and then in the new Chain Link, we're going to go ahead and trigger the Tragedy. He'll trigger both effects of Camella and the Mole Cricket, getting out a ton of advantage here, bringing back the Naturia Beast. And we go ahead and grab the... What do we grab there off the Tragedy, I guess? Grab the Aliber. So we'll go ahead and fire off the Mirror Jade effect, trying to get rid of this beast so that we can actually start playing with our spell cards. Now Talents is live, so we're going to go ahead and draw 2. We draw into the Branded Regained, which is kind of nice. We'll go ahead and try and make another Mirror Jade here with the extra step of going through Lubellion. And then we'll go ahead and use the Mirror Jade effect, banishing the Druid Swarm from the field so that we can go ahead and draw with our Branded Regained here. I'll go ahead and beat over the Camella there. Probably would have been better to beat over the Mole Cricket, but it's what it is. So we'll go ahead and get our advantage during the end phase, resetting a Branded in red, and then going to grab a Mercarier from deck. So in our opponent's turn, we are going to fire off the Branded in red, which he's going to try and stop with a Magnamut, and then we're pretty much forced to stop that with our Mercarier. So we definitely want to get another Mirror Jade on the field here. And we are going to go through the extra step of making a Lubellion because we can't control 2 Mirror Jades. He is going to chain the Blessing here, which is actually really smart, and you're going to see why. He'll bring out the Camella, and I actually mess up here. He activates both effects of Camella, and I didn't really see this as an issue until it was too late, so I didn't chain my Mirror Jade here. But what happens is he Foolish Burials the Sunflower, and then he brings back the Sunflower. So now I actually can't banish the Mole Cricket because he can always just negate it with Sunflower. And Camella has the effect where if you would tribute a Naturia monster to activate a Naturia monster's effect, you can actually just mill 2 with Camella, which is insane because this card, it's not a once per turn, so you can just use it actually twice. So he is going to start off his main phase by activating the Mole Cricket to summon out 2 from deck. I'm going to go ahead and try and use a Magnamut just to get it onto the field and banish my Mercarier so that I can get some advantage, but he stops that. Magnamut gets destroyed, and he brings out a Stink Bug and another Camella. Normal summons a Mole Cricket, and here he actually goes for the Baguska, which is actually fun with me, because now I can actually use my Mirror Jade, and I can use it every single turn now, and just keep dumping Albaz fusions into the graveyard, just because it's never going to resolve when this is in defense. So this card is pretty free. It's like the same interaction with Mirror Jade and Skill Drain. So now he's going to make the Sprite Elf, bring back the Sunflower, and then use his Medora to shuffle back my Albaz fusions to take me off of my follow-up. So now we have to figure out an out to this Baguska here, and we have 2 copies of Talents in our hands, so we just have to get our opponent to use a monster effect during our main phase, which he actually just goes for right away with the Lubellion once we activate it. So we'll go ahead and Magnamut that, and then we'll go ahead and get the Search, and then we can use Rebranded to draw and summon back. He is going to activate his Magnamut, but it will be negated by the Baguska. Now we'll go ahead and free to take the Baguska for ourselves, and we can put it into attack so that we can actually start resolving our effects. Then he's going to do the play with Sprite Elf and Naturia Sunflower, so he can negate with Sunflower to negate my Mirror Jade, and then he can, since it tributes for cost, you can always just bring it back with Sprite Elf, very much like Totally Awesome and Sprite Elf interaction. So we're going to go ahead and trigger that Mirror Jade effect and try and destroy his entire field during the end phase, and we'll put whatever monsters we can into attack. Go ahead and search off of our Aliber. Here we don't, there's not a whole lot that we need to search. I guess we could have searched for the Theater here. Probably would have been the better play, but I wanted to get the Beast online as well. So yeah, we are going to go ahead and use the Gold Sark to get us a search off of the Tragedy. So we'll grab the Adlib and move into the battle phase. Clean up his entire board. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to get the Baguska off the field, so that is going to go back to him. And while it is in attack position, it is immune to destruction, so it's going to stay, unfortunately. So we have a Brandon in red set, and he's going to go ahead and put the Baguska into defense, which is fine with me because that means he can't really do all that much either with his own monsters. So this game is looking pretty solid for us. So we are going to go ahead and use the branded in red first, alongside of the branded beast to out his Baguska. And we're going to go ahead and make a Masquerade here to really pressure our opponent's life points hard, because he was only at 3,500, and then he's going to go ahead and activate the Mole Cricket here, putting him down even more. So he's really on the clock now, has to figure out something to do, and we are just kind of just flooding him out in terms of our board presence here. So doesn't look good for our opponent. He's going to use the Mole Cricket to bring out 2 more monsters, but it really just isn't going to be enough. So that is going to be it for the first game, and let's go ahead and get into another one here. Okay, so for this next game, we are playing against Runick Spright, and our opponent's hand is very solid with the Spright Blue, Runick Dispelling, Runick Slumber, Evenly Matched, and Runick Tip. Our hand is Druid Swarm, Allure of Darkness, Magnamut, Adlib, and Aluber. So we're going to see what our opponent starts off with. He's going to activate the Runick Dispelling to summon out the Huggin from the extra deck and grabbing the field spell. Then he'll summon out Blue. Blue will grab Jet, summon out Jet. Jet will grab the starter. Then he will activate, or go ahead and make the Gigantic Spright, summoning out an Ipira to go ahead and draw a card. Draws into the Flashing Fire. Then he will activate or summon out the Spright Elf, summon back a blue, make IP Masquerena here, activate Fountain, then he'll activate Runick Tip to get a search. Then he will go ahead and draw 2 with the field spell by putting back 2. Draws into the Kitten and the red. He'll activate the starter, summon out a Carrot, and then he will summon out a red and pass the turn here. So this is a pretty solid end board on his part, honestly. Has 3 interruptions that are live from hand, and then he can obviously make Avermax on my turn, and then, you know, the red and the Carrot as well. So we have our work cut out for us here. So we are going to start by activating the Allure of Darkness to try and draw into something playable here. He's going to immediately chain the Spright Elf, bringing back the Ipira so he gets a draw. We're going to try and get the Druid Swarm onto the field. The problem here is, obviously, at this point, I knew he was just going to make Avermax as soon as I try and go into the battle phase here, so I have no really way of getting over that. So I'm just trying to find a way to bait out his Spright monsters here so that I can, you know, go into... so that I can normal summon my Aliber and get my Branded Fusion. So I'm going to activate the Theater here, and he's actually just going to pop that when I try and resolve the effect. So he's going to banish 4 off the top of my deck after that, and actually that's pretty nice because I get the Tragedy hit there, so I can go ahead and search for a Dramaturge, just get another name out of my deck, which is always good. I'm going to activate the second Allure of Darkness, actually hit a Tribergrin Mercarier off of that, which is good because it's going to get me another draw in the Albion here. I'm going to summon out the Magnamut, activate the Magnamut here, and then activate the Albion, foolishing the branded Retribution to draw a card, and we draw into the branded branded Regained. Then I try to declare battle phase here because there's not really much I can do. So he's going to go ahead and make the Avermax. I'm going to normal summon the Aluber. He's definitely going to negate that with the Spright Red, and I'm going to try and add back the branded Theater from the graveyard with the branded Retribution, which is going to get negated by the Spright Carrot. So there really isn't too much we can do here except resolve our Magnamut in the end phase and pass back to our opponent. So now he's going to activate the Runick Flashing Fire to destroy the Druid Swarm. Then he will activate the Slumber there. Going to banish a bunch of cards off the top of my deck. He does hit an Albaz, and Branded Regained is going to come in clutch here because it's going to make sure that we can always recycle our important cards and keep drawing us cards every single turn. So he's going to actually draw 3 with the field spell here, and we're going to draw a card here. And yeah, that all happened in, is that the end phase of my last turn? Or draw phase, I don't know. This game is insane. So he's going to go ahead and summon out the Spright Jet, summon out the Spright Blue, and then rebrand is going to trigger here, summoning back the Druid Swarm so that we can get that send. As you can see, our opponent's hand advantage is absolutely insane here. He's going to make the Sprite Elf, try and summon back the IP Masquerena, which I definitely don't want him to do. So I'm going to hit that with the Beastial for sure. Then he's going to activate Freezing Curses and Flashing Fire as well, banishing even more cards off the top of my deck and drawing even more cards with the field spell. But I still have some Chain Links of my own that I will be activating here. And he doesn't get a battle phase here, so he's just going to set a Smashers and pass it back to me. So he still has an Elf, an Avermax that I still have yet to get over, and you know, all his Runick spells in hand are live. So we actually draw into the talents here, which is honestly huge. It's going to allow us to win the game. So you're going to see this whole turn play out. He's going to summon out the Ipira. We're going to activate the Rebranded. He's going to activate Runick Tip, grabbing a Destruction, which is the Spell and Trap Destroyer. He's going to activate that to destroy our Branded Regained and Banish 4. So he's really just trying to deck us out here. I try to go for a normal summon Albaz here to hit his Avermax, because this card can actually out Avermax, which is really nice. But of course its effect is going to get negated, but we're actually going to be able to play it smart here. He's going to draw 3 more cards, and he draws into, I believe, 3 more live Runick spells. Seriously, look how big our opponent's hand is here, guys. We're still going to win this game, though. So we're going to go ahead and make the Albalenidus just to make space on our board here, because we want to be able to attack multiple times with this, but we also, you know, want to have space so that we can steal his Avermax here. That's really all we're trying to do here. We're trying to bait out everything that he has so we can just steal his Avermax and go for game, because we have no way of actually outing it ourselves or getting over it ourselves. So we're only on 5 cards here, and our opponent is definitely planning to deck us here. Our deck is actually going to be empty, I think, by the end of this turn. So we're going to try and resolve the Theater, but he hits it with the Smashers, so we can't fuse anymore. Now we're going to steal his Avermax, and the nice thing about waiting so late into his turn was he's used all these Runick spells, and he actually doesn't have a way to, like, he couldn't summon out a Runick monster from his extra deck with his Runick spells because his extra monster zone was clogged. So we're going to go ahead and you know, steal that Avermax as Chainlink 1. So his cards resolve. Our deck is empty, and at this point all we can do now is summon as much as we can and punch him for game. So this was a super satisfying game, and just so clutch, because we were going to lose on our next turn. All our opponent had to do was simply pass it back to us, and he would have decked us. So yeah, super nice game there, and yeah. Okay, so that is going to be the end of the video, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. With that, I am going to leave you with a peace out. Have a nice day. Goodbye.